here we begin with what might be the final playtest video before the publication of Second Bull Run. Now, Second Bull Run only includes the expansion. The actual map and stuff comes with the original Bull Run game, and that must be bought first. Now, what we have here is a historical setup for Jackson's Corps. His 3 blocks of infantry and his 3 detachments are all seen in front of Sudley Mountain. Now, to do something different this time, you'll see the setup that I have right here. Jackson has kept his skirmishers opposite of Pope's troops, while moving the rest of his corps off to the Confederate right. His plan is to have Pope's troops attack. The detachments will fall back, and then he'll slam the door from below. In the middle of that beautiful plan, Longstreet will be entering on the Warrenton Turnpike on the upper left corner of the screen here. And by that time, more of the Union Army of Potomac will have come down the other end of the Warrenton Turnpike and up from Manassas Junction. This should prove to be very interesting. Alright, let's draw some chits and move some troops. Now here at the end of the early morning turn, there is no combat. Jackson was drawn last and he was able to fall back. Now this leaves the Union player with some interesting decisions to make. Is this the real army down here? Are these just detachments? Sudley Mountain is right here. Does he want to send troops around behind Sudley Mountain? He can't just ignore those forces and move south. He has no idea what size the Confederate force is that's up here. By dividing up his corps, Jackson has actually made himself stronger. I, for one, should be very interested to see how this plans out. So I better drink my coffee and make a decision. Now, turn 2, mid-morning, we'll see Stuart coming in up the Newmarket Road. He is leading on Longstreet's corps, which will appear next turn. And Pope will see Heintzelman's 3rd Corps entering the fray, and Fitzjohn Porter will be coming up the Newmarket Road. Now, I call it the Newmarket Road, but it doesn't actually say Newmarket Road on it anywhere. It was called the Newmarket Road, and Newmarket is right here on the map. You can see it, thus making this road the Newmarket Road. There you can see Newmarket. Playing pub battles is less about reading rules and more about reading maps. Alright, let's do turn 2, mid-morning movement. Combat on the southern tip of Sudley Mountain. Alright, now here we have an interesting development south of Sudley Mountain. Jackson's artillery in the detachment was pushed back, and in so doing became entangled with A.P. Hill's division, pushing it back, and now it's spent. This came at a cost. The Union has lost 1 infantry block. Now Jackson's elite block is spent. Here are his bags. Is he going to want to move his bags and unpack them? It'll rally his units, but now the Union will have a victory objective firmly within reach. Ordinarily, this would be a no-brainer. Of course you're not going to do that. But Longstreet's corps is coming on next turn. So maybe... Whoops, I had one more chit to draw, and that was Stuart coming on. Now Stuart is going to be coming on here on the Warrenton Turnpike. I'm going to bring him on and then turn down this minor road and end up here with enough move left to come out of column. 2/3 of the cavalry road move will get him to here and leave him with enough movement to come out of column. And now he's got the Confederate right flank covered. Alright. Now it's late morning, otherwise known as turn 3. Now turn 3 sees Jesse Reno's corps coming on, his 9th Corps coming on at Manassas Junction. And of course, Longstreet's huge corps is coming on. First we have the chit draw phase. During his past chit draw, the Union artillery was ineffective. No one had passed Pope a memo, and he didn't change the orders for Army of Virginia 3rd Corps. Last they had heard, Jackson's troops were running, and they're going to keep it up. So one thing I can do when I'm playing two-fisted solo is I can say he wouldn't have had new orders. The only orders he had said attack. So he attacked, but by the time he got his attack together, Jackson had reformed his line, put fresh troops in front, unpacked his bags, and he pulled these troops back so they can't rally this turn. But next turn they'll rally. So there's just one attack right here, and then Stuart, when chasing off after some Union cavalry. First we'll do the cavalry battle. Now the Union cavalry is on a hill, but cavalry does not get cover from a hill. And the Union cavalry is driven back. Now in this combat, they each did one hit. Stuart's elite cavalry absorbed it, so they're still fresh. The Union cavalry became spent. Now if I had stayed there and fought another round, the most the Union cavalry could do is 2 hits, which would flip and force retreat on Stuart's cavalry. If Stuart's cavalry got 2 hits, that would eliminate the spent Union cavalry. The Union did not want to go with no cavalry on that flank, so they fell back. Alright, the ill-advised, irrationally exuberant Union drive on the east face of Sudley Mountain. And the worst possible result for the Union, another block lost, and no hits on the Confederates. Now in this scenario, the Union Army breaks when it's lost 6 blocks. The Confederate Army breaks when it's lost 4. At this point, the Union's lost 2, so now they both will break when they reach 4 losses. So they're kind of at parity at this point. At this point, the Union still has the larger army. They're not out of it yet. Now at this point, all the troops are on the board. Longstreet's large corps is still coming on, but basically everyone's here. There will be no more troops reinforcing, other than around dinner time, Buford's cavalry will show up. Midday, turn 4, chit draw. Alright, now at the end of the chit draw maneuver, we see a couple lines forming up, opposing each other. Here, Sigel's Army of Virginia 1st Corps continues pressing against the rebel detachments. The detachments are destroyed, but they've left a mark. Now at the top of these boxes here, I'll be putting the casualties, the infantry blocks that count towards breaking the army. Union has 2. Down here I'll have the cavalry and the detachments that don't count towards breaking the army. There's 1 detachment here. Now Sigel's Corps has a spent block. Now in this scenario, the west face of Sudley Mountain has some interesting effects because historically it was very rough, and it was only with great effort that any troops could be moved through that area. And you couldn't bring artillery or cavalry or anything like that, and certainly not supplies, up this steep mountainside. So the only way to cross Sudley Mountain is if your block becomes spent. And of course artillery, cavalry, baggage trains can't move across that. It's impassable terrain to them. And if you are on one side with unpacked bags, they can't supply something on the other side. It's considered impassable terrain. Simple enough. Ha! So now it becomes turn 5. The afternoon wears on. Every time I draw the Army of Virginia 1st Corps now, I can do nothing because the 2 blocks that they have on the map are now eliminated. In the evening, the final block, along with some artillery, arrives. Alright, now it's mid-afternoon and there's a lot more combat going on. Now Jackson is moving A.P. Hill's Corps along the west side of Sudley Mountain here to block the Union Corps that's coming down that way. Since the Confederates got the last 2 chit draws, they were guaranteed of setting up the attacks that they wanted to get. So now they've attacked. Let's see how this goes out. Alright, wherever contacted, the Union troops were driven back, but not without cost. They stubbornly gave ground along Chinn's Ridge, and the exhausted troops of Longstreet's Corps are spent. And now it's dinner time, turn 6. Turn 6 will see Buford's cavalry coming on Manassas Junction. Now the Union cavalry at Second Bull Run was not really a combat arm. They were to an extent, but they weren't used very effectively. They didn't have any central command. And the way I simulate that is they have a chit when they can move, but they don't have an HQ. Therefore, they can't attack. The only possible way for them to attack is if Pope himself is in within command range. But even so, even though they have 3 regular cavalry blocks, they're no match for the 2 elite Southern cavalry blocks. They can keep Stuart's cavalry from running roughshod over all the Union forces. And they can help, delay, they can scout, they can fill a historical role, but they're not really an effective offensive force. Hey, I forgot one combat. The cavalry holding up Sigel's advance west of Southern Mountain. Hampton's cavalry driven back, but at a cost. Another Union block is forfeit. Pope sends troops into Chinn's Ridge. Now the cavalry would like to retreat, and ordinarily it can before combat, but dragoons cannot retreat if they're spent. The dragoons are destroyed, but again at some cost. And there's no way to resupply those troops and rally them back up to fresh. And Heintzelman's Drive in the center. The fighting on Chinn's Ridge was very heavy. Ultimately, Longstreet's troops driven back, and they've lost a block. It's turn 7, early evening. The Southern troops have outrun the deployed bags. They still have these bags, which can move up and unpack, but they don't want to do that yet. Alright, now we've got 2 combats going on here that are going to be pretty critical. This is Sigel's Drive, west of Sudley Mountain, and on the east side of Sudley Mountain, Jesse Reno has managed to bring his corps to bear against the south. Sigel's troops drive them back again, but there's nothing left. It was the last full measure, and it did not achieve what they needed it to achieve. The threat west of Sudley Mountain has been dealt with. Now on the other side of the mountain, Ewell's division, along with the detachment, are driven back. And now it's turn 8, the last turn of the day. The South really needs to destroy one more Union block, then the Union breaks, Pope runs. But there are really no good attacks left. Everything's going to be costly. But if they don't push it right now, in the evening the North will recover 3 blocks, while the South recovers 1. This is their chance for a quick finish. Now if they get the jump on the Northern troops and can attack first, move first, the North will probably just fall back and it'll give the Southern troops an easy pile of terrain. Let's go to the Chitral and see how this falls out. Fitz-John Porter's 5th Corps is drawn first. But Longstreet's going to roll and see if he can jump ahead and move before him. It's a 3, he does it. So I fanged his chit and placed it ahead of Porter's chit. You know what? Porter's going to try and jump ahead of his chit. Now the South needs a 4 or less to jump. The North needs a 2 or less. Their command is not so good this time. But he rolls a 1. Yes! He's going first. But you know what? Lee is within range and Lee hasn't rolled yet. Lee can try and succeed. A 6. He does not. The alter turn order rule is a great way that allows players to actually affect things on the battlefield. So much of pub battles removes players from the action, which is a trend that needs to continue in all war games. You're not gods that have immediate and absolute control over everything. You send your orders and you hope for the best. Pub battles, with its focus on command, really shows this with its alter turn order rule. So Fitz-John Porter rallies his troops and extends his line. Now Longstreet has to move. Longstreet drives hard. He wants to force a northern loss. And his artillery tries to chase off the cavalry. But it is ineffective. Fitz-John Porter puts fresh troops in front, trying to hold the South in place. while not losing a block. Alright, now here we go in a desperate attempt. Jackson throws 2 blocks in Heinzelman's troops. And over here I had moved the cavalry to attack and outflank the southern attackers, but guess what? Northern cavalry can't attack. Instead, it looks like this. Last turn of day 1. Jackson's drive on Heinzelman on the east face of Stony Ridge. They each take a hit, and the Union decides to fall back. Longstreet's drive on Heinzelman's left flank. That's the one they're looking for. That's the one they need. That's the 6th Union block. Let's finish out the combat and see what happens. The rest of Longstreet's attack is on Fitzjohn's Porter's men. Fighting is heavy but inconclusive. Now the far Confederate right. Or heavy but inconclusive fighting. What I consider when you have both combats where both combatants fall back, what it means is neither one was able to secure the ground they were fighting over. It was not resolved within the normal turn limits. And next turn, whoever reinforces first will get control of that. Or maybe it'll just be refought again. Of course, this is the last day turn, so in the night they can't fight. So that would be interesting, but the North is broke already. We're just finishing this up. And now, 2 dice each, the cavalry battle. Buford's men are driven off. There you have it. With desperate attacks, the Confederates were able to pull off a victory at the end of day 1. In the night, Pope's army retreats. Anyway, hey, let me know your thoughts on this scenario in the comments below. And many of you I'm sure are as excited as I am about the upcoming Waterloo campaign as the additional maps come out in the next few weeks. Wavre is already up for grabs. You can order it. In 2 weeks we'll have Ligny. In 2 weeks after that, Quatre Bras. And not long after that, you'll be able to get 2nd Bull Run. And remember, ownership of the Bull Run scenario is required to use the 2nd Bull Run scenario blocks. You only have to pay for this cool canvas map once. Alright. A lot going on. I'm pretty excited about this. Keep your powder dry and guard your baggage trains.